Hi, thanks for joining me again. In front of you is a chart of Coles Limited, an Australian supermarket chain. I follow this chart fairly closely. I keep an eye on it regularly, and it may not look like anything particularly interesting here. It's the daily chart. But if we flip to the weekly chart and zoom in a little, this period here looks vaguely familiar to me. Can anyone understand what that is? What that might be showing? While you're thinking about it, down here was when the COVID-19 pullback began, and then the market realised that this stock would perhaps benefit from the COVID-19 lockdowns. The price went up. There was a period of consolidation, and then price accelerated higher in response. Now, over here, although it's a bit longer than you would generally expect, I'll give you some hints. We've got what you would generally see as a pressing nature towards the upside. You have threatening down bars, which appear like price is going to break down, but price doesn't break down. There's no downside follow through. Instead, there's an up bar every following week in response. And there's also clusters of closes. There's 2 there at the same level. There's 3 there at the same level. There's 4 there at the same level. That's 4 weeks in a row. Price closed at almost the same level. This is what we would normally see as bullish absorption. The only thing is, it's going for way longer than you would normally expect. Generally, bullish absorption is used to grind its way through a resistance level. And just to perhaps clarify a bit, we'll flip over and have a quick explanation on resistance for those who might be interested. If you have a chart and price pushes up and forms a minor high, then comes back to consolidate those gains, and then goes through a consolidation pattern. If at that point, for whatever reason, price breaks down from the consolidation pattern, there'll be certain players that are trapped in this area. If we mark the range, you've got the consolidation here and the previous high. Anyone who bought in here is likely holding on. It's human nature to hold on and not take a loss. And perhaps in hindsight, those who were holding when they saw price continuing lower would then like to get out. It's too late. They're going to take a big loss now. So human nature says they'll hold on, particularly if the stock's likely to survive and it's just a downturn for a period, or hopefully. While price is continuing down, they'll continue holding at a loss, and they'll say to themselves, one day when price gets back to this level, I'll sell out for break even. And that causes resistance to form because there's a cluster of holders that bought at these levels, and they're waiting for price to come back so that they can sell. And then one day, after an accumulation or whatever happens, price starts to head higher again. And it starts to get back towards these levels again, where we know that there's stale holders in the market, and they will cause price to find resistance through their selling pressure up there, will be above the normal selling pressure. That will cause resistance in the market. If price continues up and tries to push into this level without any serious intent, it's likely to be rejected because the selling pressure at this level was too great. There wasn't enough demand in the market. There wasn't enough intent behind the buying, and price will push back down, and it'll find a level just below the resistance, which I call the shadow, and it's where supply and demand return to more normal levels, and price can continue along and perhaps make a secondary attempt at challenging the market. You'll often see this happen as a test. I see it as a test to see how much supply is actually waiting there and how much of this supply that has been locked in, people got sick of waiting and sold down at the lows when the accumulation took place, because that happens as well. Another way that the market will try to push through a resistance line like this, price will get up to a certain level and then it will just blast through. Often this happens in a midday announcement, whether it be for the individual stock or it will be for an economic announcement. You'll see price just accelerate through. There's so much demand in the market. Whoever's sitting here with an order in the offer just gets bought and price pushes through. And then after a period of time, it moves into a consolidation. And that's one way price overcomes resistance like this. Another way is for price to move right up to the level, and then often at the open, it will gap through and then go through a consolidation. This gap is generally deliberate, it's done on purpose, and it's generally, in this case, the professionals in the market trying to get price over an obvious resistance level and encourage anyone who is stuck in here to now hold and rather than sell. And the third obvious way the market gets through a resistance level like this is to grind its way through. And this is what we see as bullish absorption. Price pushes through like this, and then we'll mark it like this, and we'll identify those characteristics: a pressing nature to the upside, threatening down bars, which see no downside follow through, and clustering of closes within the levels, which we can't see on my little picture, but we'll mark them anyway. And then once price gets through, there'll often be a final pullback, and then price will accelerate out and generally resume the uptrend that it was in previously. This is how the market will often negotiate its way through an obvious resistance level. It'll either blast through, it'll gap over, or grind through. And that grinding action is what we see as bullish absorption. So we'll go back to the chart. The only interesting thing really to start with is price was above where you would see a previous high or any obvious resistance. You can see down here, volumes were very low all the way through here. So there's no huge amount of obvious supply here. This was the market buying, and it almost seems like the market tipped over deliberately. And then we go through a period of bullish absorption. Then the market tips over deliberately. And it does appear like it may be starting again. I've been a bit intrigued with what has been going on, because you would normally see bullish absorption taking place over much shorter periods of time. I remember seeing it much more commonly on intraday futures charts, where the professionals would use it regularly to get through levels, and on daily charts of stock charts and futures charts. If I flick back and look at the S&P E-mini, you'll generally see a period of bullish absorption taking place fairly regularly. If you look here, you've got a minor high taking place here. You have two threatening down bars that have no downside follow through. You have some pressing nature towards the upside. Then you have another little high here, and you have some threatening down bars, a pressing nature towards the upside. You can see once price gets through and above the resistance, it continues higher. A little consolidation, then it continues higher again. These are the little periods of bullish absorption on the daily chart that you see more commonly. It's quite rare in my experience to see such a big long pattern on a weekly chart. And a weekly chart is generally much more powerful in its eventual response than a daily chart or an intraday chart. So we'll just have to wait and see how this plays out and see if it continues and what the eventual result is. For many, many weeks. And I can only wonder if this is some form of accumulation. Perhaps the market got ahead of itself a bit too much and it's needing to go through a period of sideways action for the fundamentals to catch up with the price. I'm not sure. But this does appear like bullish absorption. It's got all the characteristics that I would normally point out for bullish absorption. However, there's no obvious intent being shown to mark price up in response. It's certainly not yet anyway. And it seems price is quite happy just to go sideways in these little patterns. I can only wonder if price is actually attempting to accumulate, or if the professionals in the market are attempting to accumulate. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess. But I thought it was interesting and enough to make a little video about and show you what I can see in the market, and you can get an eye for it because it's a pretty good example of bullish absorption, a pretty clear example. It's what you would generally like to see. You want to see the pressing nature to the upside. You want to see threatening down bars that see no downside follow through. And you want to see clustering of closes at the same price level. That's exactly what we see. Yet there's no obvious intent to mark price up. So if you're interested as well, you can follow along with the stock. This is the weekly chart, which makes it an even more powerful pattern if it comes off. And we'll just have to see what happens as the story unfolds on the chart. Okay, thanks for watching again. See ya.